Alexandre Pantoja is aiming to not just say, hey man, I'm the champion, I defended my belt, so I'm the real champion, because that's what it takes, I guess you could say. But this is another guy who it's like it's almost insulting to call this a title defense to a degree, because this is just rematches after rematches after rematches. It's almost as if he was already the champion to a degree. A lot of people kind of considered Alexandre Pantoja the uncrowned champion of the division, given his dominance and the, I don't want to say inability, but maybe the people didn't want to fight him, man. Let's just say it. Let's put it out in the open, man. Is Brandon Royval one of those guys who doesn't want to fight him? I don't think so. I think he wants to get his lick back. How motivated do you think Brandon Royval is at this current moment for Pantoja?
Oh, probably the most motivated he's been, especially with his last loss, getting submitted round 2. There's a lot of ego that goes into the sport, and now you get a chance to get one back and for gold on the line in the last card of the entire year. All eyes are on you. Everything is right there. The entire moment has been built up for you to become the superstar. Now's your chance ever. If Brandon Royval is not motivated to get this dub, I don't know what can get it done, man.
I have a crazy timeline theory right here for Alexandre Pantoja if he can get past Brandon Royval. You beat Brandon Royval, well, you already beat Moreno for the rematch. You beat Royval for the rematch. Who else do we got? Maybe it isn't that many, but the point is this. I think this is what he does. He says, all right, depending on Davison Figueiredo's success at 135 pounds, if Figgy can somehow get his hands on the belt, he says, that's a guy I need my rematch on. So I'm going to be 125, move up to 135, challenge the champion, and I'm going to be double champ. I think that's like the beautiful narrative movie story for Alexandre Pantoja if he could pull it off. Life is already a movie. You saw the promo he cut after he won the championship. But the big wrench in those plans is this dude, Brandon Royval, who looked really good against Pantoja in their first fight until he didn't. And that's the story against Pantoja. AJ, let me give a quick breakdown on Brandon Royval. In my opinion, I think this is a guy with all the tools to be a champion in this division. But a couple of the losses that we've seen from him, specifically Brandon Moreno, Alexandre Pantoja, those are really the only two notable ones. I mean, he's won all the rest of his fights pretty much. I think he's a dude who does so much, it almost puts him at a disadvantage with his level of activity. He's constantly moving, jabbing, scrambling, all of that stuff. And against Pantoja, he's literally the opposite school of thought. He's old school, man. Little movements, powerful, better wrestler. But Royval scrambled himself ultimately into getting choked out. Do you think that he has learned from that original fight and is going to tone it down a little bit, or is that what makes him special?
No, I think that's what makes him special, Derek. That's what makes Royval be the fighter that he is. And yeah, people can say, you know, paralysis by analysis because you have so many different options running through your head of what you can do. And we saw exactly that play out in the scramble and that ended up in the submission. But that's one of the best parts about Brandon Royval, because if he is just a split second ahead of you in his thought process, he's going to be able to know exactly which route to take it, and in a different route than anybody else would think, because he's able to lie or depend on those tools in his tool belt. And in fact, man, I mean, this you're talking about old school, new school types of striking. I like Brandon Royval's method to his madness a lot more, just because it's able to have multiple ways of being effective in this fight.
Sometimes, though, you don't really need the most new school, fancy, shiny toy if the basics work, right? Let me give you an example of this story. Last night, I was training jiu-jitsu, right, Carlson Gracie, and we had Felipe Cobra come in, right, old school jiu-jitsu guy under Carlson Gracie Jr., right? Very, very old school jiu-jitsu. And he was showing us some old school moves, old school passes and stuff like that, man. And we were showing like, oh, man, we don't really see this with the new school style of thought, right? And it was just really interesting because he was like, yeah, I'm old school. And when he actually puts that on display, it's really hard to actually initiate your new school techniques when the old school guy is just grinding on you, man, just putting pressure, smash, pass. That is the story, more or less, of Carlson Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. Alexandre Pantoja, I'm not saying that that's his style or his method, but he is very basic, fundamental, one chain to the next chain, smash, power. Royval is flow, technique, scramble, right? So while we saw a lot of success for Royval in those scramble attempts, he kept getting his back taken by Pantoja. Pantoja literally take the back, hook in. That's it. Hooks, got the back. Let's just chill. I'm going to let you tire yourself out. But this is my question to you, man. Pantoja didn't look good in that fight, particularly from a cardio standpoint. And that was a 3-round fight, and it ended in the second round. He amazed me when he went 5 rounds with Moreno and looked sharp for 5 rounds. Is that the new Pantoja that we're seeing, or should we be scared that Royval could break this man over 5 rounds?
That's a good question, Derek, because in my mind, instantly, that's the new Pantoja, that the one who is going to rely a little bit more on saving the gas tank and stay solid through the entire 5 rounds. But sometimes when you fight a guy that has that energy, that has those kind of things, you bring your energy level up. They always talk about mixing or matching equals, right? Like you're mirroring, right? You're mirroring your opponent. You're necessarily energy levels are going to feed off of each other. And when Brandon Royval is in there, I can see Pantoja's heart rate elevating a little bit to that. But that begs the question, like, does he mentally be able to control himself and go back to the roots, go back to who he is as a fighter, and Pantoja survive there like he did in Moreno fight? I think that's the new style, or not the new style, but the new mentality that Pantoja is going to have going into this fight. Does Brandon Moreno on the other end realize that, see that, and put the gas on even harder? Or does he back down and match and mirror Pantoja in this fight?
See, that's the thing, man, is that off gut instinct, I think that he just does the thing that got him to the dance. I think that in his mind, he probably says, I made one error that cost me the fight. That doesn't mean I should change my approach to what got me here, my approach to having success in that matchup. So this is a guy, Brandon Royval, excuse me. In my opinion, this is a guy who, like I said, has just failed to put it together, but has all of the tools. It's just a matter of he's had the tough matchups. Like, look at it. Look at the schedule, man. You're looking at the win over Tim Elliott, win over Kai Kara-France. You lose to Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja, former champion and current champion. Then you beat Bontarine, Matt Schnell, and Mateus Nicolau. So it's like he's already had the biggest names possible and fell short. So now you have the opportunity to come back. But the scariest part, man, is exactly what you touched on. We're seeing a new Pantoja, not just a new Pantoja. What do they say? And I don't want to feed into it too much. When you're a champion, all of a sudden you're 20% better. Alexandre Pantoja 20% better is a scary, scary prospect. I want nothing to do with that in all the greatest respectful ways, man. So in a nutshell, to kind of round this on out, man, these are two really scary guys. And I feel like we can make an argument that Alexandre Pantoja, and this is just going to be an argument, please push back if need be. Alexandre Pantoja, Brandon Moreno, Brandon Royval. Those are my 1, 2, 3. And it might be 1, 2A, 2B, in my opinion. What do you think?
I can see exactly where you're coming from, Derek, because who else really comes to mind? I mean, I know there's a Kai Kara-France that's kind of building up, and correct me if I'm wrong, Askar Askarov, everybody forget about him?
He's out of the UFC. He got cut,
exactly.
Bro.
Okay, yeah, he's out of the UFC. I don't know if he retired, but I know he's not here anymore. But other than that, I mean, Manel Kape, nah, I don't think so. There's really those top elite people that are staying consistent. We're seeing this happen more and more. Amir Albazi, everybody forgot about. I completely forgot about Albazi, man.
He's going to fight Moreno, so they're going to kind of cancel themselves out. We'll see. I just think Royval, he's fought more of the bigger names, so that's why I consider him there. But the point is, it all remains the same. This is going to be a hell of a fight. It's going to come down to the nuances, and I just wonder how long it'll last, because we know Pantoja's got pretty much one methodology of fighting, and it's walk you down until he can get the takedown and then start initiating his game. So all of that being said, I'm going to take a flyer on the scrappy guy with a ton of tools, a ton of potential, who hasn't put it together yet, who might rise to the challenge of his opposition. Give me Brandon Royval, and AJ, give me a finish right here. I don't know how it's going to happen, but give me inside the distance. Brandon Royval, the raw dog, and new. How you see it, man?
That was my question to you, Derek. What do you think the odds on a finish in this fight are happening? I think the odds are pretty damn good, especially with two guys at the peak of their game right now. Give me and still Alexandre Pantoja. I'm going finish also, Derek. I see a submission coming from either one of these guys.
And imagine, he submits Royval again. Stop questioning Pantoja. Stop it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm taking a flyer here. But Pantoja, all respect. I recognize the greatness right there. Shout out. All right, folks, those are your two title fights.